A week from now, Ian would lead his first annual Cahill Family Summit meeting. Branch leaders from all over the world would attend on video conference, and notable Cahills would stream into Grace Cahill's mansion. Every detail had to be right, from the scones and clotted cream of the elaborate English tea to the technical challenges of screens and cables, and the smooth operation of the Gideon, the Cahill family's own satellite. Not just right, Ian amended, his gaze unfocused as the tailor measured his inseam. Lockstep perfect. Because lately, just in the past few weeks, things had seemed a bit wobbly. From the very beginning, the squabbling Cahills had been hard to manage. He hadn't given Amy enough credit. She'd been a powerhouse in an ill-fitting t-shirt, and everyone had looked up to her. They'd known that she and her brother had defeated Cahill enemies and fashioned the family into an organized unit. It had been her vision that had rebuilt the mansion, had pushed the technology for the satellite, had brought everyone together for conferences and retreats, had tightened the digital network. How she'd gotten them to agree and to agree to disagree, he still didn't know. He thought it would be fun to give orders. He didn't expect people to question his decisions. The truth was, he thought he'd be a far superior leader to Amy, and he was, in many ways, of course. But why did the family seem to be slipping from his grasp? Branch leaders not checking in, prominent Cahills not taking his calls, the egos he had to deal with. The tailor had finished marking the hem. He laid out a row of pins. "Be sure it's straight." "Sure, bud." "I am not your bud, Mr. Funicello. Are you aware of who pays your bill?" Cara Pierce burst into the room, breathless. "Ian!" Ian grabbed at his trousers. He wasn't wearing a belt, and he wasn't entirely sure all his seams were sewn. "Cara? Did you ever hear of a quaint custom called knocking?" "Oh, please. I knew your tailor was here." "Precisely. Listen, your high faultiness. We've got a problem." Cara strode toward him, impossibly beautiful and incredibly annoying. As a matter of fact, impossible and incredible basically defined his second in command. Cara made fun of him constantly, wore a baseball cap in the house, ate potato chips from a can, and could probably beat him up. She was also most likely smarter than he was. She was definitely, absolutely, completely not his type. Except she was his soulmate. She was his one true pairing. She was the sugar in his cup of tea, the butter on his crumpets, the tinsel on his tree. His destiny. She just didn't know it yet. She reached a hand through her chin-length blonde hair and held up her smartphone. "I'm having problems logging into Gideon." "Atmospheric disturbance?" "Could be, but why is the Cahill Summit on my calendar for today?" He turned back to the mirror. "Don't fret, it's next week. If you can tear yourself away from yourself, take a look at your phone. Can't you see I'm in the middle of something important?" "Ow!" "Sorry, bud. You stuck me! Ian, look at your phone! He gave in and fished out out of his jacket pocket. He frowned. It does say today. Must be a software glitch. Isn't that your area? You're the master hacker? It's not a glitch. It was moved, Kara said, just a few minutes ago. The meeting is now scheduled to take place in 5 minutes. Well, maybe on our phones, but not in actuality. Well, in actuality, I can no longer log on to Gideon to check the network. This feels hinky. Hinky? What sort of word is that? If you keep using slang, I'm going to have to start watching American television, and nobody wants that. I can't make a decision based on emotion. Tell me an observable fact, and maybe he'd gone too far. Because suddenly, Kara's beautiful, clear green eyes had turned icy, and she was coming at him hard. Feet first. The kick missed him by a millimeter and connected with Mr. Funicello's chin. The skinny tailor went flying. His head slammed back against the wall, and he went limp. Kara, I admit the fellow couldn't sew a straight seam, but... Kara bent down and picked up a vial that had rolled across the carpet. The pins. She gestured at the mirror. I saw him dip them into this liquid. So he wasn't just clumsy? Ian said. He put out a hand to steady himself. How many times did he stick you? Just once. How do you feel? Surprised? Irritated? Gobsmacked? Any numbness? She asked gently. Pain? I feel absolutely topping, except for the part where you're making me extremely nervous. Kara squinted at the label, and then typed it into her phone. Okay, she said after a few seconds. That felt like hours. It's not poison. Excellent news. Ian tried not to look relieved. It was important to keep his cool in front of Kara. He had a feeling she didn't appreciate his manly qualities. It's a mild sedative. The cumulative effect wouldn't even have knocked you out, just slowed you down. He had a handful of pins, so he was planning to scratch you plenty of times. Kara tossed the bottle into the bag and stood, her hands on her hips. Do me a favor. The next time I tell you something's wrong, try believing it. You hardly conveyed a sense of great urgency, Ian said. What do I have to do? What do I have to do? Kick you? You almost did. Sorry I missed, Kara muttered. Ian bent down to rifle through the tailor's pockets. No idea, just in case he got caught. He'd want to be untraceable. Mr. Berman did the background check. We can get information from him. But why would someone want to sedate me? Ian's mind clicked over the possibilities. A kidnapping? Not again. Well, that's straight from the Cahill playbook, but I don't think so. What was that? The sound of tires on the brick-paved courtyard came to them. The slam of a car door. Kara hurried to the double-height windows and peered outside into the gray winter morning. There are 15 limousines in our courtyard, and a line of cars stretching back to the gate, she said. Is that enough actuality for you? This isn't a glitch in our calendars. Somebody scheduled this meeting. They didn't want to kidnap you. They just wanted to slow me down, Ian said. The question is who and why. You could cancel the meeting. Ian shook his head. Impossible. They're here. They'd never stand for that. You could be walking into a trap. It's not a trap if I see what's coming. They dragged Mr. Funicello, or whoever he really was, into the safe room and locked the door. As they hurried down the wide carpeted stairs, Ian and Kara could hear the murmur of voices growing louder. At the landing overlooking the grand entrance hall, they bumped into a frazzled Mr. Berman running upstairs toward them. Mr. Cabra, Miss Pierce, why didn't you tell me the meeting was today? There are cars arriving. The Cahill family leaders, governors, ambassadors, astronauts, Nobel Prize winners, Olympic athletes. Somebody parachuted into the meadow. There's a Buddhist monk down there, and they'll all need coffee and tea and whatever the Russian ambassador drinks. I shall have to prepare a lunch. I can't just make crab souffle out of thin air, you know. Relax, Mr. Berman, Kara said. Just do the best you can. Mr. Berman looked at Ian. Are you all right, sir? You look pale. I'm fine. But Mr. Funicello is enjoying a short stay in our safe room, Ian said, trying to tuck his shirt more securely in his pants. He'll be all right. Let's stay focused. We need to greet our guests. Mr. Berman straightened. Yes, sir. I won't fail you. He turned and hurried down the stairs. Good old Berman. Ian surveyed the hall behind. It was packed with his relatives, close and distant, and at least one enemy.